Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to remove the cassette off your Freehub body. If it's stuck on there, you've tried everything and it just won't budge, you try pulling it off, you can't remove it. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. Right, so here we have the cassette. This happens to be a Shimano cassette, the Shimano style Freehub body. So this includes the SRAM, the lower end SRAM cassettes. Use the same Freehub body style as a Shimano. So this guide will include those as well. So first thing you want to do, was remove your lock nut from the cassette. So we just go ahead, get that undone. So what you find, once you've removed the lock nut off of the end, doesn't matter if this is a through axle wheel or a quick release wheel, makes no difference. So you remove the lock nut for the cassette. Now what you should be able to do is at least remove the first cog, so your 11 tooth. So you should be able to remove that off of there, because that's just literally sitting on the end of the Freehub, so that one should come off. So that's the first step, get that one off, and then it will be stuck on with the rest of them. As you can see, it's like there's not a lot sticking out there. It's the rest of the sprockets there, the internals of that, that's holding it, getting it stuck onto the Freehub. So once you've done that, I'll just move on, show you the next step. So next thing you want to do is get yourself some penetrating oil in a spray and put it down over the cassette. So stick that down in there and just spray it down in through there and let it soak over the Freehub body itself, and leave it soak, put a good amount on there and leave that soak for about at least 15 minutes to get actually so it soaks through onto the Freehub body itself. Right, so the next step, what you want to do is, if you've got a quick release wheel, is put your quick release skewer back through the wheel as though you're going to mount it back on the bike. So we'll put that through, and then we'll put the nut back on this side, and then do that up. Until it's flush with the skewer through the middle. Just put that there, like that. If you use the through axle wheel, what you want to do is get the through axle and put that through. So not the way you normally have it, put the arm, the lever on the cassette side, not on the non-cassette side. So put it on this side with your lever here. So slide that back through, so it's hitting against there, and you got like this, the lever will be on this side, for that's if it's through axle. So then what you want to do is get yourself a block of wood on the floor like that, as you can see, as long as it's on a hard surface, using the block of wood so we don't damage anything on the wheel. Don't just put it straight on the floor. Right, so what we've done now is we turn the wheel over and we got the cassette pointing downwards like that. As you can see, I've got the quick release skewer in there, or your through axle lever on this side, resting down on a block of wood. Then you just hold the wheel with one hand like that, or you can just leave it over to one side, whichever. And then what you want to do is, with a hammer, doesn't matter if it's a wooden handled one or just a plastic handled hammer, makes no difference. What you can do is, holding that like that, is down through your spokes you can see the cassette, the edge of the cassette there. So what you do is, by holding that, effectively you knock down there after you've soaked it with the oil, you knock that there, then you can turn it round like that a little bit and do the same thing again, turn it round, do the same thing again, and by using a wooden hammer, the handle, you're not damaging anything, you're not bending or damaging the cassette, and you can't damage the spokes. So just be careful, just tap it like that, move it round and just keep doing that. And in the end, if you just keep doing it by moving it round a bit at a time, hitting it, just tapping it down, it will come loose. What you might have to do is, again, after you've done it for a little while, you might have to soak it again, so spray that again with some penetrating oil. Just depends on how badly it's stuck on there. Sometimes it's just only stuck on a little bit, and you give it a few taps and it will start to move easily, and then it will start coming off. So like I say, just repeat that process just by doing that, down like that, until it starts to come off. Then what will happen is the cassette, obviously you'll be falling off the Freehub body there. Obviously you can't go, you can only go so far. If you've got a through axle, obviously your lever there is going to stop it because it's sticking out further. If you've got a, say, a 142 rear dropout, you've got the end cap sticking out there as well, and then your lever. This is a through axle, like I said, I mean quick release, sorry. So you've got the nut there, so it's just going to drop down over that. So when you lift it up, it will start falling off here in component pieces. Depends what type of cassette you got to how many bits the cassette will be in. So once it starts to come off, then you just carry on the process until you've removed the cassette. So once you've removed your cassette from your Freehub body, make sure you give it a clean up and check the inside of the cassette as well, and clean that off your Freehub body, wash it off, degrease it, and look for any corrosion that was on there. Now, as you can see, the Freehub bodies vary. This one happens to be a steel Freehub body, so you could have a steel Freehub body like that, and then depending on what cassette you've got, you could have aluminium like that. The actual spider of the cassette could be aluminium. So steel and aluminium, two opposing metals, hence why you get the corrosion on there from lack of maintenance. So you get the corrosion between the two different surfaces. And then you could also have an aluminium Freehub body like that one. So that's aluminium. And then you could have a steel cassette, depending on the cheaper cassettes, be steel like that. So that's steel. Then you could have an aluminium Freehub body. So again, different opposing metals, you get corrosion between the two. So another thing to check for is if you've got an aluminium Freehub body like that, that's aluminium. If yours is aluminium, then what you want to look for when you've got the cassette off is any marks from the cassette on the Freehub. As you can see there, there's very small marks on there. You see that? Teeth marks there from the cassette. Because when the cassettes are done up, if you put, I'll just show you, if you get a cassette, I'll just get a part of a cassette so you can see it easier. So if you get that and put that on, like that, you imagine, you see there, there's a tiny bit of movement in it, very hard to pick up, it just moves, as you can hear. So that moves on there backwards and forwards ever so slightly. That's why you get the marks in there, the teeth marks. That just rocks backwards and forwards as you accelerate, and then you stop pedaling, it just moves very slightly. So the aluminium is a softer metal, so it just gets the teeth marks in there more than you would on a steel Freehub body. So if you've got those marks on there like that, that can also make it harder to remove the cassette. You could try and get it off by hand and it just won't come off. All it takes is a little tap from the back with the end of a handle of a hammer. Just give it a tap through the wheel when it's on the bike even, and it'll just start coming off because it's held on by those little notches on there. And what you can do is when you cleaned it up, you need to get a small file and you can just file off those. You'll feel them on there like that. You can hear them. So you can just file those down flat on each one. Once you've done that, clean it off. Then the thing you've got to do, make sure, is you clean it off and make sure you put grease on the Freehub body, plenty of it, just put it all over like that before you put your cassette back on. Then obviously refit your cassette and torque up your lock ring on the cassette, and then that's it refitted. But make sure you grease this regularly. And the other thing, the grease won't last forever on there, because if you're washing your bike and you're using degreasers on the cassette and the chain, then the degreaser is going down through the cassette and is degreasing effectively the outside of the Freehub body as well. So it's just washing the grease off that's on there. So it pays to take your cassette off every now and again and put some fresh grease on there, clean your cassette properly while you got it off, and then put the cassette back on from time to time, just to help it stop it getting stuck on there. Because corrosion, especially if you're riding in the wet and everything, and then the salt, if they put salt on your roads wherever you are, then it all helps to get that seized on there. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.